Hi, everyone. It's Tessa.
And Joe.
From the Unveiling Paradise podcast.
Tessa, summer is almost here, and so many of our listeners are about to have their epic destination wedding.
And we are so excited for you guys.
Before the big day, guys, we want you to make sure you listen to these 3 episodes.
Episode 62, Deep Diving Your Wedding Ceremony.
Episode 53, Questions Your Wedding Guests Will Ask.
And episode 31, the final countdown to your wedding day.
And if you're planning your wedding here in Hawaii, hit us up and ask us about our Unveiling Paradise podcast promo.
Happy planning. Welcome back, everyone, to Unveiling Paradise. We are in season 5. Hi, Joe.
We made it back to the studio. Oh, can you believe it?
It was a long break, but we are back and we are ready to roll.
I am so excited. I kind of missed the studio. I missed talking, missed hearing my voice.
Missed me?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I know you missed your voice. He was practicing on his voice by himself on the mic.
Sound lessons and everything. Now my voice is soft and buttery.
A little bit of singing. I heard it. So I'm so excited because we're finally talking about my one real true love, and it's wedding cake.
I know this is actually the weirdest thing because you've talked about wedding cake a lot, like in all of our episodes.
Because I love cake.
I know. And this is the weird thing is like, I thought it was like your shtick. I thought it was like your like ongoing joke, right? That was about cake. But this is so funny because, guys, I just realized Tessa really likes cake. Like, she really does. Like, this is your thing that makes you happy. This is your, like, either you're like on a bad day, you pull out a piece of wedding cake. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? And like, I didn't get it. I didn't actually get it until just recently that cake is really your thing.
And it's not like birthday cake or like a cupcake. Like, it's wedding cake. And it's my happy place. I have cake in my freezer. I have cake in my fridge.
Do you think this is the reason you've chosen this as your career path, just to be around wedding cake?
100%. This is why I'm here. I'm here for the cake always.
Well, we're not just talking about wedding cake today. We're talking about desserts, right? Guys, if you've listened to all of our episodes, we've talked about this a lot. Food, having great food makes a wedding. Having crappy food breaks a wedding. Like, everybody talks about the food, right? If you have good food, everyone's going to be raving about your wedding. If you have bad food, believe me, it's going to go noticed. The same is always said about bars, right? Having a great bar service, signature cocktails, and all these things makes or breaks your wedding. But we never talked about dessert. So actually, I think this does fit in. We're not going to just talk about cake all day because I can't handle that. Cake is not my thing. But we're talking about dessert, right? If you have great dessert, like I love after an amazing meal, some cocktails, dessert.
And I think that's really important. So, right, again, if you're starting your wedding on a high and you have these great appetizers and you have this great meal, amazing cocktails, you want to end on a high note too. So whether that be a humongous, fabulous wedding cake or a huge dessert bar, the dessert is a big part of what rounds out your entire event. All
right, guys. So grab your fork because we are about to take a big bite out of wedding cakes and desserts.
So let's get started. Welcome to Unveiling Paradise, your go-to destination wedding podcast. I'm Tessa, wedding planner and owner of Fred & Kate Events.
And I'm Joe, wedding and adventure photographer of Joseph Esser Photography. We are based in Hawaii, one of the biggest, most popular locations for destination weddings.
We want to share our real-life experiences with you, give you insight from a professional's perspective, and still make sure you're having fun in the process.
We're huge believers in the fact that planning a destination wedding can be one of the most amazing experiences, and we want to bring you along.
We're so excited to talk with you about weddings, Hawaii, and everything else under the sun.
So pack your bags and let's get started.
Welcome back to Unveiling Paradise. We are so excited to start this season on my favorite topic, wedding cake and desserts. As you all know, I love wedding cake.
Okay, I have a really awkward question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a tattoo that says "I heart cake"?
Oh my God, should I do it?
Like, I think you need one.
I'll do it.
I heart cake.
I will totally do that. I love wedding cake.
Is it going to be like a full back tattoo or is this going to be a little cutie?
I was thinking more like arm sleeve.
Arm sleeve, okay.
Yeah, of different types of cakes. So Joe, you know I love wedding cake. You also know that I love games and I love quizzes.
So are you talking about a cake quiz? Because I'm all about it.
Yes, I have a cake quiz for you.
that I'm going to be answering because I'm not good at this.
No, you have to answer. You will get judged, and I will laugh if you get them wrong.
No, that's
I know,
not fair.
it's my favorite.
Because the thing that's interesting is like I am not a cake guy.
I know,
Like,
that's why I thought it would be so fun.
I don't know anything about cakes.
Well, let's get started.
Okay, all right. What do we got? Okay, so
I have 5 questions, and if
Okay.
you get them wrong, you have to buy me cake.
no, it's expensive.
It's so expensive, but I want you to buy me a wedding cake.
No, definitely not. Okay, all right. If I get one right, then I win.
Okay.
I think that's more.
It's fair. Okay.
And then you have to buy me like
A cake.
I don't want
You
a
know,
cake.
I know, and then you'll
Some
give it to
gummy
me.
worms, please. Gummy bears. That's my jam. Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay, first question. Buttercream, ganache, and fondant are all types of what?
Okay, so if you have a salad, you have to dress the salad, right? With like, I guess a dressing. I'm gonna say these are your cake dressings. Is that like a jacket that you put on? Like fondant is that weird material, right? That you like can make cool little shapes and things. But it doesn't taste good, right?
I mean, it tastes like sugar,
So it tastes like sugar.
so delicious.
Okay, I know what buttercream is, but ganache is it like pudding? I'm
No.
thinking it's maybe like pudding, but you put it on the cake, like
But they're all types of. You have to say it or you get it wrong. I mean, it's,
cake dressings. I don't know.
it's frosting, so you're wrong.
Frosting, okay. all
I'm
right,
one
dressing.
step closer to a wedding cake.
Oh,
I
okay,
cannot
all right.
believe it.
I
I'm
gotta
so
get one
excited.
right,
I'm
okay.
so excited. Okay, so buttercream, ganache, and fondant are all types of frostings.
When you're working with your couple, so you have to ask them like, what is your thought on fondant? Because I think a lot of people are like, ugh, gross. And some people
Yeah.
are like, oh, I really want just a pretty cake that I'm not going to enjoy eating.
Yeah,
Because you can't eat fondant,
you can
right?
eat it.
People
You can
don't
eat it.
though, do
You
they?
can. I do.
Gross. Okay, next question.
Question number 2. What does the term semi-naked refer to in the wedding cake world?
I can't believe you're going to just leave me with this question. You're setting yourself up.
In the wedding cake world.
So what is a semi-naked wedding cake?
Filter yourself.
Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. So we had the cake dressed with whatever fondant or whatever. It's when you remove the dressing of the cake, right? So it's like kind of like, I don't know, is it a lingerie cake? You're like, wow, what's underneath that fondant? And it's probably the good stuff, right? Because the fondant doesn't taste good, right? But under the fondant, that's where you get semi-nude cakes. Hey, what's up, girl?
It's not semi-nude. It's semi-naked.
Oh, semi-naked. Man, this is tough. I'm not a cake guy. I'm just like, okay, fine. All right, so it's semi-naked. All right. It's like when you remove the frosting.
Yeah, so kind of. So the semi-naked is when there's a very, very thin layer where you can see the cake layers.
So it's like lingerie for a cake.
A little see-through. A
Okay, I
little
like
see-through.
that.
I'm
That's a
gonna
little awkward.
I'm gonna give you a quarter point.
I mean, I think it's true. Though. I think I get it. Okay. So a semi-nude cake or a semi-naked cake, right? Does it taste better than a fully dressed cake?
I think it depends if you like frosting. For frosting purists, I think it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Question number 3. How many servings can you get from a typical 6-inch wedding cake?
This is so easy. If you're the guest, 1.
That's true, because I don't share my
If
cake.
I'm the guest, it's probably like 80. And like I'll have a little like, just does it mix well with my cocktails? I don't know.
Okay, the correct answer is about 10.
Oh, okay.
So you're wrong.
Can't even really imagine. Is that a standard size 6 inches? Like that seems small.
It's a small cake. It's a small cake. So again, it's just a lot of times a 6-inch will be the top tier of a cake. So depending on how many people you have, the cake will kind of, get bigger and bigger to accommodate.
So if you just order a 6-inch cake, are you really just trying to have a cake for the couple to eat? Because I don't feel like you wouldn't serve that to everybody.
Yeah,
right?
and I think it's also just for cake cutting, right? So a lot of couples will do sort of a cupcake tier, or I know you talked about doing like a little shot glass tier and having that 6-inch cake at the top as kind of just the cake cutting for photos.
Yep. Good.
You're not doing well. And I'm pretty excited about this because I feel like I'm one step closer to getting a cake from you.
I just need 1 point.
I know. We're not there yet. Okay, so number 4. Is there a specific type of frosting that holds up to heat or sun better than others?
Okay. We've talked about a semi-nude, maybe a nude. So that would be no frosting. If there's no frosting, it's going to hold up the best, I would think. But next up, I have to say it's probably fondant. I feel like fondant is it's a weird material. I don't know if you guys, like all of our listeners, if you guys actually have played with it or had a fondant cake, but it's real thick, right? It's like
Play-Doh.
It's kind of like Play-Doh for a cake, yeah? So I would guess fondant.
Yeah, you're correct.
Ah, yes. No cake for you. I have 1.25 point. No cake. We have one more question. Oh, yeah.
I know. That's a real bummer. Okay. Last question. So you were correct. It is fondant, and it definitely
Fondant?
Well,
Because I say fondant.
I say fondant. I don't know. I'm not fancy like you.
Okay.
Okay.
Fondant.
Fondant.
Do you fondue or fondant?
Fondant. Okay. Last question. What's a cake smash, and are you into it?
Okay, so this is super easy. A cake smash, I believe technically, is when your couple agrees beforehand to take said pieces of cake and smash each other in the face. Or I've seen this before where there's 2 tip jars, and whoever fills the tip jar with the most money, that person gets to smash the cake in their partner's face. Something like that. I think is that a cake smash, or is it just impromptu?
Well, I like that in your world, it's agreed on. And I agree that if you agree to it, then yes. But I think the cake smash also refers to just kind of going for it without the premeditated plan. So any sort of cake smash.
So I'm 100% about consensual cake smashing. If you've agreed on it, yes. But am I into it without consent? No, I think it's so bad. Like, I've seen horrible cake smashes that have ended in tears and somebody's really pissed on their wedding day. So I think this is one of those things. If you're doing a cake smash, talk about it beforehand. And if you're into it, make it into a fun game that everybody can be part of. Consensual cake smashing.
Consensual cake smash is key. Like you said, I have seen it where the groom thinks it's funny to smash it in the bride's face. That's never going to end well. So
No, it won't. Don't do that,
please
guys.
always make sure that you guys, and again, I've seen it where both of them were like, we're going to do it and it's super fun and they're into it. That's fine. But do not waste cake.
Well, okay. So I got 1.25 point. I got 2.25 points. Is that correct? I think so. 2.25 points. So that means I probably owe you a donut, which I think donuts are better than cake. I'm just saying.
I'll take it.
Okay, fine. Well, I know you really want to get into the 101s of cake. Like, how do you choose a cake for your wedding day? Like when you're talking with your couples, right? How do you actually make those decisions? What's the right size? Are you going to do one that like somebody's jumping out of? I think that's awesome. Or, is it just for the two of you to cut? Like, how do you get into this? So let's take a deep dive into first cakes. And then I promise, guys, everyone who's not into cake like me, we're going to talk about alternatives, because if you're not into cake, there's got to be other ways to have some really fun desserts at your reception. Okay, cake 101. Like, why should you even have a cake at your wedding? Like, why is wedding cake tradition? Like, I go to restaurants all the time, and maybe one of like the 5 or 10 dessert items is cake. The rest is everything else that I want to have. Like, so why cake? Like, what's the big deal about it? Besides your biases about cake, what is it all about?
Got it. Okay, so in addition to cake just being the best food on the planet, you want me to give you a little history?
It's not really a food. It's not on any food pyramid. I promise you. The food pyramid does not look like a cake.
We're looking at very different food charts, I think. Yours has alcohol. Mine has wedding cake.
Fine, fair.
So, okay, I think we talked about this in a previous episode about traditions, right? So again, we see wedding cakes at most weddings, and it's because it is traditionally a symbol of prosperity, luck, and fertility. So people have those cakes there for good luck. And that's really, we talked about it. It's really all about good luck and fertility.
You can see me rolling my eyes over here. Like fertility, guys. I mean, that sounds like... That's like throwing in fertility at the end. Like, of course, you're like, I'm going to have a cake now if we want to have babies.
I mean, I'm just reading it from Google. So that's what Google tells me. So this is why you need to have a wedding cake. And again, important.
What about ice cream? Does ice cream have anything to do with fertility? Does it really correlate with having more kids? If you have a huge cake, you're going to have like 1,000 kids or?
Oh, maybe. You know what? Everyone should have a big cake.
If you don't want kids, there's a lot of us out there. I'm trying to get rid of mine right now. But don't have a cake. There you go. Perfect.
But if you want kids, you should have like a massive cake and pack up all the leftovers for me.
I love it. Okay. So as the resident expert on cakes in the house. Okay. So here's the next question for me. Like, how do you actually choose a cake flavor? So you decide you're going to have a cake. How do you pick a flavor? Or do you have the opportunity to pick multiple flavors? Like, how do you go about that? Like, and do you have to think about whether or not your guests are going to enjoy the flavors, or is it just about you?
Right. So I don't want to brag, but I went to culinary school.
Oh, God.
So I just want to make sure that when I'm answering this question, you understand that I went to culinary
So
school.
you sound like an expert is what you're trying to do.
I'm an
Okay,
expert.
okay.
Well, in addition to just loving cake, going to culinary school, being awesome, like I'm a cake expert.
All right.
So when you're looking at a cake, right, a couple things to think about. It's just like when we do the food tastings, right? You're serving multiple people, not just yourself. So when I'm looking at wedding cakes with couples, a lot of times they'll pick flavors that they very much like, but it may not be popular for everyone. So a couple things, right? If you're doing a 2 or 3 tier cake, you can do a different flavor for each cake. So if you're very set on one particular flavor, a lot of couples in Hawaii choose the tropical flavors, the lilikoi, the guavas. Lilikoi, passion fruit is very tart, so it's not really popular with everyone. So if you do that, I always recommend doing a more basic flavor, maybe a strawberries and cream, vanilla, chocolate, something that everyone can get on board with. Then at least you have options. Or guava tends to be a little more neutral than passion fruit. So when you're going through your flavors, it's finding those flavors that will complement the food, complement the drinks, and that kind of will be a crowd pleaser to everybody.
This is so funny because I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but when my wife and I got married, I was really into helping plan the wedding, right? I was really into it. And the one thing she did not invite me to was the cake tasting. And she chose like a weird passion fruit. I think it was a guava cake, which I'm not into cake, period. But if you ask me what I want on my wedding day, it's a red velvet cake. I love red velvet. I think it's so good. It's so yummy.
It's going to get in your
It
teeth.
doesn't matter. I have teeth. I have like toothbrushes.
I
Whatever.
have teeth
I have extras.
like a shark.
Like a shark. But like to this day, I was like, I'm so bummed about not having the flavor that I was excited about for my wedding. So every anniversary, guess who gets a red velvet cake because he threw a fit? Me.
Why is that not surprising?
But I think that's interesting. Like, what is that flavor that like you care about too? Like if it's just to please everyone, I'm sure guava was probably like a crowd pleaser for everyone. But like for me, it was like, I really just wanted to have red velvet.
But couldn't you have done, so what I would have done is for you, if I was your wedding planner, I would have done that small top tier red velvet because it is a hard flavor for everyone to get behind. The middle tier can be the guava or whatever else she chose. And then the bottom tier can be either the same as the second tier or a brand new third flavor.
Yeah, sure.
So
okay.
fun. Speaking of red velvet, I have to tell you about the strangest flavor combination that I had for one of my weddings. This couple was stoked. They picked this flavor. I was like, I
What
don't
is it?
know. And no one ate the cake. So it was.
Did you try the cake? Because if
I
you
did.
didn't, and
I did. I even took some cake home and I was like, I can't get behind it. I
Ew,
cannot.
What
Okay.
is it?
It was a red velvet cake with a lilikoi cream.
Okay, so it's like sort of sour.
It was sour and sweet, but it was a strange mix. Again, it was that the lilikoi was so sour and the red velvet was so sweet. And it was a weird combination. Like you could smell it, that sourness when you're expecting like a cream cheese filling or something so delicious. And it wasn't that, like, and your brain is just confused. I don't know.
That's a lot for that cake to be so bad that you're like, this is disgusting.
You love red velvet. I'm going to get that for you and Jackie for your anniversary.
No, I think I'm good. I just straight red velvet, please. That'll be fine. Okay, so you piqued my curiosity. What is the most popular wedding cake flavor? Like, if you were to just go through all the weddings you've had, like, what's number one?
Honestly, I would say number one is a strawberries and cream.
Okay.
I think people like that. You know, it's a clean, like a vanilla cake.
Vanilla is just the worst. It's like the lack of
I
a
thought
soul.
you like vanilla. you like vanilla.
I don't. I'm not. I'm
vanilla.
a chocolate guy
You're
all the way.
vanilla.
No. I may look a little vanilla, but I am chocolate all the way.
But it is. It's a safe cake flavor. The strawberries and cream tends to be a little lighter, so you have that fruity, light, basic. Like it's a popular flavor. I would say by far the most popular.
And lilikoi red velvet's the most unpopular.
In my mind, in my personal opinion, yes. Now I have a question for you, Joe.
Oh, the resident cake expert is asking me.
I
like
know.
it.
The cake expert is now asking the resident photographer.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so during our wedding, when do you recommend we do the cake cutting?
Ooh.
Yeah, so we got the cake. We picked our flavors. We're getting married. When do we get to eat this cake?
I think that's kind of an easy question. I think it's natural progression of your dinner, right? So if you have 3 courses, you always end with dessert, right? So I think that's how like after everybody's fed, that's when you want to move into dessert, whether it's a cake or something better. There's lots of options, guys. But I think you do it after dinner service, right? That actually, for me, I think as a photographer, that's usually the first thing that happens to start the formal program. The couple does their cake cutting, and then they move on to everything else. And then wait staff will start serving the cake as maybe speeches are happening or whatever. Is that right?
I have a couple thoughts as a wedding planner and cake lover.
Okay.
Okay. I think what you're saying is correct in the sense of the natural order, right? You're going to cut it and serve it and whatnot. Realistically, a lot of times, if you're doing a plated meal and that is your 3rd course, your servers are serving your entree. So if you cut that cake right during that time, they cannot then take time to cut the cake and then serve it. So sometimes it has to be cut a little earlier to make sure there's time for it to come out when it's supposed to.
Okay. So then when do you recommend cutting the cake? Is it like right at the beginning of the day?
So not at the beginning of the day, but what I'll try to do is I'll try to cut the cake again when I'll work with the servers to figure out when do they have time to cut the cake. If it's actually served as dessert, a lot of hotels will have a separate dessert and then the cake is kind of a bonus. So with that, we're not as strapped for timing of your meal. So a lot of it will depend, what is the cake's purpose? Is it the only dessert? Are there other desserts? And that's kind of how we figure out when to cut it throughout the day.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess it depends on like timing, how big if you have 500 people at your wedding, you're trying to serve them.
That's a massive cake.
Yeah. Costco.
Dreams come true. Okay, wait. Speaking of Costco, can I tell you a quick wedding cake fail story?
Yeah, I love it.
Because I love wedding cakes. So I'm not at all knocking wedding cakes, but I had a couple, they were trying to save money. So they ordered a wedding cake and it was a 3-tier cake from Sam's Club. So you can save money. They got the Sam's Club cake, but it was buttercream, which is, softer than like a fondant. They had those buttercream flowers. So again, they're not real flowers. They're not fondant. They are just buttercream piped as flowers.
Which is just, it's butter and cream.
And sugar. So what's happening is, obviously Sam's Club is not a cake maker. They don't deliver. So they had to have a friend pick it up. Of course, the friend was attending the wedding. So they picked it up hours early. They left it. And we were actually in a ballroom. But again, it was hours ahead. This cake is sitting there. The ceremony's happening. I go in to double check the room before we let people in. And the cake is melting, like just melting. The whole front of the cake with all of the buttercream flowers has fallen. Everything's a mess. Everything's melting. So I had to basically scrape the whole cake off. It became a semi-naked cake. I had to decorate it with fresh flowers, so we fixed it. But again, like you get what you pay for. These cheaper cakes, we're worried about weather, temperature. There's so many things. Cake is precious and it's delicate. We have to treat it like that.
Well, and I think when you say like buttercream, like butter is something that melts real fast, cream too. Like I imagine it doesn't hold up very well in the elements, right? And heat and all that sort of stuff. If you're trying to set up our couples for success with their cake, like what do you do? Like, do you have it refrigerated until the very last moment? Like, what is your suggestion on that? I'm just curious.
Right. So the tricky thing is a lot of venues don't have storage for a cake. So if we're at an outdoor venue or even a lot of hotels for liability, if you're bringing in an outside cake, you can't store it in their facilities. So that's why working with a professional cake baker where they can deliver it later makes sense. If the sun is going down at 7:30 at night in Hawaii, and we have a clear top tent and there's no fridge, we can't have the cake come at 3:00 in the afternoon. Like it will be dead. It's not going to make it. So they have to deliver at most an hour before, maybe 30 minutes before, so we can get the cake out there, take the pictures, and again, do the cake cutting. So a lot of it's kind of depending on that, and then just cut and serve the cake.
Okay, yeah, I want to actually throw in a story to sound like I'm interested in cake, but I promise we're going to change to another topic about desserts in a second, guys. But you and I actually had a wedding together, and the cake cutting was scheduled for a few hours into the reception.
Right.
And this cake, it sort of became like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It just, as we were watching it, and we're like, oh my God, this cake is going to fall over. It kept on. I grabbed the picture. It was the craziest thing. And we're like, we have to do this cake cutting now because this thing is going to just like explode.
We tried to dowel the cake to make it stand up. It was warm in the restaurant. It was, again, she found this cake person on Instagram, so I don't think they were a legit cake person. But again, as soon as we did the grand entrance, I pulled them over. I'm like, time for your cake cutting. And they're like, what? I'm like, cut the cake right now. We're going to get the photos. We're going to serve it up. It was a tasty cake, but again, like it has to be able to hold up to tears and heat and weather, and it has to be resilient.
Okay, I have one more thing.
Okay.
I've heard that a lot of couples keep the top tier of their cake and they save it for their anniversary. Like, what is your thoughts on that? Like, I think that's a tradition, right?
It is a tradition. So, as someone who loves cake and always has cake in her freezer, I think that's gross. It's a year. Did you save the top tier of your cake?
Yeah, we did actually.
And how did it taste?
Well, we had it on our first year anniversary and it was a little freezer burnt, but I mean, it still tasted gross. It's probably started out gross.
It wasn't red velvet.
It wasn't red velvet. Okay, Tesla, can we please move on to alternatives? So if cake isn't your jam, there are so many amazing alternatives for dessert, like that wow your guests. I know that I definitely have a handful of my favorites that I see really regularly at weddings now that are trending. Let's talk about those. So if you give us the grace to move away from cakes and look at alternatives, if you're not a cake person, let's talk about that. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, for sure. And that's fine because I love all desserts, cake included. But one thing that I want to talk about that we see a lot, and I've done a ton, are these dessert bars.
Yeah.
And so it's these really cool, just massive two ways. It can either be on a table, so you're doing a full display where you have cupcakes, you have little chocolates, you have Cocoa Puffs or cream puffs, brownies, pretzel bites, like all of these really cool desserts to create this fabulous display. What we've also done in the past, which I love, is a little dessert bar at each guest table.
I like that.
So it becomes the centerpiece. So you're having this fabulous dessert display at each table so people can eat it there versus having to fight for dessert anywhere else. We've done pie bars. So a lot of really cool. So if cake is not your thing, like you, Joe, it's cool. There are options.
You know what I love? We see this pretty much at every wedding now. We have here in Hawaii, we have something called a malasada. It's really what that means is it's a Portuguese donut. It's like a donut without the hole, right? So it's fried batter with sugar. It's so yummy. And we actually have a wedding company out here that's all they do. They specialize in like actually preparing malasadas, like fresh cooked, Portuguese donuts on site, right? So everyone is just sitting there and they start smelling like those donuts cooking. And it's insane. Like people go crazy. And how amazing is that? If you're not into cake, like having somebody making fresh donuts at your wedding.
So there's a couple of cool things, right? Like I love the malasadas, but there are a ton of really cool action stations. So in addition to that, right, we have those like rolled ice cream or just scooped ice cream. You have the shave ice cart, right, which in Hawaii is so popular, like during cocktail hour when it's still hot outside, doing the very, very cool like shave ice stations. You can put some alcohol on it if you want to. So in addition to the donuts and the malasadas, there's a ton of different action stations for desserts that people are starting to do, which I absolutely love during cocktail hour and at night.
Gelatos, that's really popular.
Yeah, or even like ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a big ice cream person, but the ice cream sandwich with the yummy soft cookie and the ice cream, so good.
And for all of our boozy listeners, I also like this. I've seen this like espresso martinis, right? Have you seen that? It's kind of like the post-wedding cocktail drink. Like they'll have like them all lined up. It's really pretty for photos. And it's kind of something that like, I don't know, I think it could replace a cake.
What?
In my mind, it's...
I mean, I was just going to agree with you that I love them, but when you said replace a cake, but they're so cool. I love it. We've done the late night espresso bars. We've also done an affogato station. So it's that coffee with ice cream.
So affogato is, it's coffee.
Coffee with ice cream, espresso with ice cream. And you can add a little bit of Kahlua or Bailey's on it too. So you kind of have the best of all worlds. It's espresso martini, throw in some ice cream.
No cake.
And a cake on the side. I mean, it's kind of like everyone's dream, right?
All right. So at the expense of being the Debbie Downer in the room, is there anything that we should prepare for if we're not doing a cake, but we're doing like these bigger, more grand, like dessert stations? If we're outdoors, do we have to worry about bugs and flies and ants and worms or like whatever? Like, how do you, because like with a cake, you bring it out, it's perfectly timed. It gets cut. It gets brought back to the kitchen. How do you manage that? How do you manage a dessert station that has a lot for your guests to like not be eating bugs?
So, that's a good question. And I think one thing to keep in mind is whenever you're at an outdoor wedding, we're dealing with the elements, especially in Hawaii. If you think there's no bugs in Hawaii, you are going to be sorely mistaken. But it's understanding, right? It's just like cakes, it's timing. When we're doing these huge dessert bars, a lot of times it takes a huge team because we can't set it up at 10 a.m. We have to do it an hour before. We have to do it right before. There's certain venues on the island where we know, okay, once the sun goes over the mountain, we can start setup. Then the sun is not beaming down. The type of tent that you have, if it's a clear top or no tent, it's going to affect the cake. It's going to affect your desserts, right? So it's just kind of timing of when we can set up. If the timing is shorter, we need more people. So the dessert staff, our staff, everyone jumps in to help just because the timing is so short to make it all happen.
I love that there's so many companies that specialize in alternatives where, you have somebody that's preparing those desserts in front of you. You don't have to worry about like any of these things. I think whenever you can work with vendors who are preparing that right in front of you, it's so much better.
Right. I love an on-site action station.
Yeah, me too. Well, Tessa, is there anything else you want to share about cake? Because this is your one show that we're actually going to talk about it. Otherwise, I think I'm good.
I think you were good about 10 minutes ago. No, I think I love it. I'm excited that we finally got to talk about cake. I do believe, unbiased, that it is a huge part of your wedding day.
Would cake create world peace in your mind?
Oh, for sure.
Everyone has enough cake.
If you gave everyone cake, the world would be a better place. And the funny thing is, I know you truly believe that I believe that.
I do believe that you believe that. That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, we hope you made it to the very end of this episode. I have a feeling that a lot of the people that are not cake foodies have trailed off. But if you're still with us, welcome to season 5. We have so many more topics we're going to be hitting. Lots of brand new guests. So we can't wait to share all of our new wedding tips and advice with you guys.
And we will see you back here soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Unveiling Paradise.
If you enjoy our show, please follow us and rate us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would really mean a lot.
And don't forget to also get on our mailing list and follow us on Instagram. Just do it already.
Until next time, this is Tessa.
And this is Joe.
And don't forget, your happily ever after
is just a plane ride away.